Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I make videos on all things OCD, in particular pure OCD, which is intrusive thoughts and mental rituals. Just happens to be the name of my memoir, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. Yay! I'm doing peer support with people worldwide to provide support wherever you're at in your recovery. I'm walking alongside you, helping you to feel less alone and to normalize this experience that can be really debilitating and really scary at times. And I also do referral consultations. We can help you find therapists and resources anywhere in the world to get the specialized treatment that you deserve. NoCD is NOCD is an app, and it's also an opportunity to find telehealth therapists that can help with OCD. So to find out more, go to treatmyocd.com. So today I wanted to talk about when OCD manifests physically. Now there's three parts to this video, and I'm going to try to make it fast. So I'm going to do one after the other. The first part I'm going to talk about is the physical, when OCD impacts us physically, meaning like the anxiety, how that can manifest in our bodies and make things difficult or hard or scary or any of that stuff. And then when you actually have OCD about things that are physical, so if you get a pain and then you start having OCD about it, this is also going to include health OCD. And then, of course, the OCD physical symptoms such as the lovely groinal and all of that stuff. So just going to quickly go through these. I think it's so important to talk about the physical component of OCD because, first of all, that can make it feel, the physical part of OCD can make you really feel like this is not OCD. We already have problems believing this is OCD anyway because OCD is ego dystonic. And so when we have thoughts that doesn't really align with our values and morals, we start to worry. If there's not any truth behind these thoughts, then why do I keep having them? And they're persistent and blah, blah. So then it can inevitably morph into, what if this is an OCD and this is real? Which is insight, by the way, which is what that means, to have it be ego dystonic, so that you have insight that this isn't what you want, but you can't stop the thoughts. Now, with that said, a lot of you will hear that and go, but I'm worried I want the thoughts now. Or I'm worried that there is no insight. So if you're worried that there isn't insight, that means you have insight. Just so you know, the not worrying you don't have insight is an actual sign that you have insight. So you can go down every single pathway that when you hear something that you think, oh my gosh, but what if this isn't true? And as you know in my videos, I'm not going to touch on every single person's experience. So if something doesn't sit or resonates weirdly with you, it usually is because everything that you hear is going to produce doubt. Not everything, but you may hear something that produces doubt, and this is part of the OCD experience. Okay, so when things manifest physically, well, first of all, let's talk about how stressful OCD is on our physicality, okay? I can't speak for anyone else, but I can tell you that personally, I struggle physically because of the symptoms of anxiety that impact my body. So I have issues in my jaw and my neck, my posture, and my shoulders. So I hold everything right here. And typically I hold it on my right side. And so this shuts everything down over here when I get super stressed, which is why I get feet injuries, because I'm holding everything so tight. I think I've shared this with you before. I actually went to a PT one time, and she was like, Chrissy, you need to really apply some ACT philosophy. And I thought, is she a therapist, an OCD therapist? And what she meant was kind of committing and practicing acceptance and commitment to what I'm experiencing and leaning into life. She was like, you lean back. And I don't know what your posture is like or how OCD or anxiety impacts you, but I took that and thought about it for a long time and still think about it and process it. And since I was a young kid, since I was 8 years old living with OCD, I felt afraid of the world. And the physical response that I've had to that is to protect myself by always being in fight or flight and leaning back from the world, not leaning forward and allowing the world to, it's almost like I'm always protecting myself. I'm always trying to hold myself, in this position of being ready to fight anxiety or flee or, fawn or whatever I've needed to do. And so that statement really hit home for me. And I do want you to know that I struggle with anxiety symptoms in my body. And since she talked to me about that and she went into a little bit more detail, I really have, and I know that this is hard for a lot of us, but I've really tried to practice self-compassion when this happens instead of just sheer anger and frustration, which is typically my go-to emotions, anger and frustration. But since then, what happens is if I go through a stressful time or if I go through a big trigger like I have recently, raccoons, what I find is kind of the physical hangover, like emotional, physical hangover that I have from that experience is my body tightens up and my body gets to very much, it's protecting itself. It's protecting me from the world because I have been in such distress. And so to be able to look at that and go, well, my body is really doing whatever it needs to do to protect me in this time of distress and anxiety, that's pretty amazing. And I haven't been able to see my body in that way before. I've always just been pissed off at it. But now I can see this is what it's doing and I can take steps to correct it. And sometimes that correction takes a while. Sometimes I don't even know, like a lot of it is like I lock my jaw, and then that brings my shoulders up and my head back. And so sometimes I'll just feel pain right here in my jaw. And then I'll be like, oh my goodness, I have been doing this for 2 or 3 days, even in my sleep. And I just didn't know it. So then it will take me a little bit. And I work with a physical therapist to take steps to kind of get unstuck when I get into that. But I realize this is just part of living with anxiety for me. And so all I can do is try to be proactive and then take care of myself after it happens. So the second point I wanted to make, and this has come up in groups a little bit lately, and I was so glad because I felt so alone with this theme for a long time, but we have talked about when we get some sort of pain or and this could be like health stuff too, like, oh, I have a headache, or, oh, my feet are swollen, or wow, this hurts over here, my knee hurts or something, or even if something happens and there's a pain, the OCD reaction to that sometimes can be, oh my goodness, worst case scenario, right? And for me, I just went through this for a couple of years where I was having pain in my foot. There was nothing technically wrong with it other than compensation from all the stress I was just telling you about. But I would get into this spiral in my head of it's never going to be better. I am stuck with this pain for life. And I know pain sucks, okay? And I know that when we get to that point, a lot of people probably go, wow, I just want the pain to stop. But when we have OCD, we take it to the nth degree. I will never not be in pain. And I would look at old people, like really, really old people. No offense to old people. I was just observing. And I would go, oh my gosh, when I'm that old, I'm still going to have this pain. And I would get so sad and so almost hopeless, thinking it's never going to go away. And then I think with the health piece, that can happen, but then you start down the Google search, right? Of oh my gosh, this could mean this, and I may not ever get better from that. So I just wanted to touch on that is that is part of OCD. And a lot of people may experience it and not even know it is OCD. What's interesting, really quick, and then I'll go on to the third topic, is I have dealt with this injury shit really for years and years and years and just didn't know it. You know why? Because I just assume when people have an injury or when they're in pain, you stress out until you figure out what it is. And I actually don't think that's the case. A lot of people are just like, meh, my knee hurts. It'll probably heal up in a few weeks, or we just go to the doctor and figure it out, and here I am, like, Googling, like, no one's business, trying to be like, it's got to be, like, well, it got so bad one time in, like, the early 2000s, I had this injury, probably compensations from fucking stress. It got so bad that I was contacting neurologists and being like, I looked in this encyclopedia of anatomy. And I'm like telling them, like, all the veins that are probably twisted up in my feet. Oh, the embarrassing things we do to look for reassurance. I mean, legit, I talked to a neurologist and he was like, I don't know what to do for you. He was like, I think you have a mental illness. I was like, yeah. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up because you may not even recognize this as being OCD. But again, how do we know things are OCD? You're never really going to be 100% sure. I just want to put that out there, and it's always going to be, but maybe it's not because. But how do you really know? Look for the compulsions. See the compulsions. Believe that they are compulsions, and that's how you know. And then your brain might go, but I'm not doing compulsions. This is real. So then it will take you down I almost said rock slide. I saw a rock slide on TV, so that's why I was thinking of it. Anyway, lastly, and I just have a few more minutes, so I just wanted to touch on all the physical things that can happen in response to our intrusive thoughts. Y'all know where this is going. Groinal urges, all kinds of tingles and movement and whatever else, wherever that might be on your body, in any erogenous zone. It can happen in the back end, in the front end, in the upper end, people's mouths, all kinds of things. I just want to say that this is one of the most terrifying parts of having OCD, intrusive thoughts, is when you feel these things. It is so alarming, and you feel as if having those sensations really means the thoughts are real. How could they not be real if my groin is moving? How could it not be real if I'm having feelings in my back end, or if my mouth is watering when I'm looking at a banana or something? Sorry, I know that can be triggering for people, so I'm not laughing at you. It's just, it's there. So, when these things happen, how could it not be true? This has got to be proof. Urges for violent, intrusive thoughts, urges for anything and any intrusive thoughts. And this can, manifest. And then, sometimes you feel like you have an urge and then you act on it. Go watch my video if you haven't, on acting on it. A lot of people will test or check or recheck or retest and things like that, and then fall into this huge spiral about how you acted on something. Meaning, if you're in the kitchen and you're all of a sudden having a visceral reaction to a knife sitting there, and maybe, what if I pick this up and hurt someone or kill my dog or stab myself or something, and you feel that urge, your hands are like moving toward the knife, and you just feel this, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to control myself. And then you just go, you know what, I'm just gonna test, or I'm gonna check, I'm gonna pick up the knife. And then you're testing on whether you're feeling something or not. What's happening? Is something happening? I mean, this is a compulsion. And then you put the knife down and you think, oh my gosh, that's one step toward picking up the knife and doing something. I acted on it. This is a compulsion. Yes, this is reassurance, but I just want you to know, because you may not know, and you may be spinning and stewing on this. I acted on it. I have POCD, and I touched my niece on the arm. I acted on it. I had the urge, and then I touched her arm. Oh my gosh, what does that mean about me? What am I capable of? I have sexual orientation, OCD, and I hung out with my friends, and I hugged my friend, and I hugged her a little bit longer than I normally would, trying to test. Oh my gosh, I acted on it. So at the end of the day, this is a compulsive act. Compulsions are actions, behaviors, things that we do in response to intrusive thoughts to try to neutralize them, prove or disprove them, make them go away. It's all of those things that we try to do to get rid of the thoughts. Exposure response prevention. Lastly, this and other forms of therapy, acceptance commitment therapy, these are ways to learn how to manage your reactions to the intrusive thoughts, to lessen the distress of them. So, to wrap up, OCD can impact us physically in so many different ways. It can just the stress and anxiety of having this disorder can impact anything about your physical being, where you hold the stress. And over time, this can become debilitating. This can create injuries. I just want you to know that you're not alone with that. You can work with someone to help learn how to de-stress, how to get your body back lined up. Secondly, the OCD and injury piece. When you have something going on and you start obsessing about what that means, and am I going to forever feel this pain? This pain is never going to go away. And it doesn't feel like OCD because the pain is there. Again, managing the compulsions around that. And lastly, the groinals, the urges, all the feelings that you can get and sensations in response to intrusive thoughts that can be so scary and make you think, this means it's real. You are not alone. And it's so shameful and embarrassing to talk about. It can be embarrassing to even talk to a therapist about it. But I want you to know it is a very real thing. It is very part of the OCD pattern and experience. And I'm really sorry that you deal with it. I'm sorry I deal with it. So I'm sorry my dogs are out there playing. And it sounds like a zombie apocalypse the way that they play. So they're okay. No one's killing each other. That's just how they play. Anyway, good to see you. I hope that you're doing okay. And if you're struggling with any of these things, I hope this video helped. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time.